Welcome to the Franchise Woman podcast, where passion and purpose collide, profits are made, and relationships forged. I'm Rebecca Monet, CEO and Chief Scientist at Zoracle Profiles, along with my co host, community advocate, speaker, author, and entrepreneur, Tracy Kawa. Our special guest today is Kay Miller. Kay Miller is an expert on uncopyable sales. As the first woman ever hired for outside sales by Amarock, a division of Anchor Hawking, she built her formidable sales career by emphasizing long-term relationships over one-time deals. Kay was later hired by Walker Exhaust, a division of Tenneco, and the largest automotive muffler manufacturer in the world. Where there, she was named Walker Salesperson of the Year, an accolade that earned her the nickname Muffler Mama. Kay has been a top sales performer ever since and now speaks and consults. She's the author of a new book, Uncopyable Sales Secrets, How to Create an Unfair Advantage and Outsell Your Competition. The book has been called the most fun sales book you've ever read, and is packed with powerful strategies as well as specific actions you can start using immediately to make more sales. I'm so excited about this interview, Tracy. I don't know about you. And Kay, thank you for joining us.
Oh, it's my pleasure to be here, even though it's an early morning for me. And we talked about that briefly at the beginning of the call. I had the extreme pleasure last night to go to an Elton John concert.
Cool.
And I'm telling you, he started right out of the box with Benny and the Jets. Hey, kids, shake it loose together. The spotlight's bitten. I'm not going to try to sing. I already blew it. But Rebecca, when we were talking about it, you had such a fun story about Elton John in a concert you went to, what, 20 years ago?
Yes, 20 years ago. I'm so funny, Tracy. I want you to sing. What was the song that you were thinking about the minute we said Elton John?
Don't go breaking my heart.
That's what it was. Don't go breaking my heart. I couldn't if I tried. Right. Oh, that's
you did better than I did with Benny and the Jets.
Beautiful. You get a beautiful voice. I didn't know this about you.
Let's sing the rest of the interview here.
Woo. So yeah, I had just this crazy experience 20 years ago. Elton John was at San Diego State University, playing in the auditorium there, and I went with my then husband, and he was just playing his heart out and really connecting with the audience. Here he is pounding away and singing away, and before at the end of the song, in the middle of the song, in fact, he stops playing, speaks in the microphone, and he says, "I gotta pee," and he got up and just ran off the stage.
Wow.
It was crazy. But, I have to tell you guys, it made him more relatable. He wasn't this celebrity that didn't have personal needs, right? So it was a delight, and I will always remember that.
Yes, even Elton John has to pee. And I think that's a good lesson for, relationships, business relationships, sales. Seeing his human side made that such a cool memory for you.
Wow.
That's awesome.
That really is so interesting. And I agree. It really does show that human side of him. I have to ask you, I sang, we spoke about Elton John, and now I've been staring at this moose in back of you the whole time.
What's that all about?
Tell me the moose story. Why do you have him there?
The moose. Now the moose, and I actually even have a stuffed moose here. So there's a theme. And when you read my book, because I know if you're watching this podcast or listening, you're going to want to read that book. I talk about how we call our ideal target market the moose. And the analogy is that if you were a hunter, which the only thing I hunt is shoes, but if you were actually a hunter and you were going to go out in the woods and you wanted to hunt moose, you would not want to waste any time hunting bears or birds or deer or whatever else. You would really want to focus on your moose. You'd want to know where they are. You'd want to learn their language. You'd want to figure out what the bait was to attract the moose. And so we use that to talk about ideal customers, clients, business fits. And it's just really a great way to remember. And, you know, all the Uncopyable followers, because as you can see, we've got a series of books. If a question comes up about marketing or branding or anything, the first question everybody asks is, well, who is the moose? What does the moose need? So that is the meaning of the moose.
Got it.
It's so interesting. My son is a hunter. So when you say speak their language, I know what that means. It's also has something to do with smell, because he always smells kind of weird around deer season.
I don't know about that part, but
trust me, he smells weird.
I hope he's not listening to this podcast.
To attract the right deer, right? You know.
Okay, yeah, I know. Hey, whatever works. It's about the customer, right? It's about the moose.
And about knowing who your moose really is.
Yeah.
So you also talk about in your book thinking like Sherlock. Now I got a picture in my head what that might mean, but I think it's better if I ask you what it might mean.
Well, yeah, let me think about this now. If you research your moose and you know exactly who your ideal target is, and a good way to do that a lot of times is to look at who you're currently working with. You know, and I know, Rebecca, you talk about that. Who's the ideal fit for a franchise, or whatever the case is. And then you say, okay, this is what I know about this person. You know, you have this tool, your assessment, to actually really drill down on that person or that, you know, company entity. But then you really want to get to know them on, you know, a deeper level. And, you know, I think one of the biggest mistakes that salespeople make, and as I confessed earlier, I'm guilty of it too, is we talk too much. And I think we get excited about our opportunity. You know, we believe in what we're selling. We know what the potential is, but really the way that you are going to persuade someone else is to really find out what clicks with them. And I tell a story in the book, which is not related to a franchise, of course, but it's basically a friend of mine needed to have some power washing done because she had some friends coming over. She wanted the house to look nice, but she had some concerns about the landscaping, etc. She called a couple companies, and one guy came over, the owner of the company, and I call him Power Wash Dude because I don't want to name the company, throw him under the bus. But he came in with a 3-ring binder and just talked and covered everything. He told the history of the company. He told about his, you know, philosophy of managing his team and the benefits he paid to his team. Yes, Tracy. And her eyes were glazing over. She was fidgeting. You know, he was not reading her body language. It probably wasn't quite as obvious as that. But really, that scenario is so true, because she said, "There's no way I would buy from him." She was angry by the time he left because he'd wasted so much time. So even if you can have all these wonderful things about your opportunity, you need to find out if they matter to the customer first. And you need to just say, okay, how do you envision this going? What would be your ideal outcome? You know, how does this fit into your, you know, plan, family, whatever. So it's really looking for clues. Honestly, body language, tone of voice, are they engaged? Are they interested? And what kinds of questions can you ask to get them thinking forward and thinking about the ideal outcome?
You know, when you said we talk too much, we have a tendency to talk too much, the first thing I thought of was that once a month, I train the franchise brokers at FBA on the use of this Oracle profiling tool. And there's one slide in there that Rebecca placed in there, and it's a picture of a crocodile. And it says, don't be a crocodile, because the crocodile has this huge mouth and very little ears. So that's the visual that just jumped in my brain. And I assume what you're talking about is just listen more, ask questions that are open ended, right? Is that what you're suggesting to get them talking?
Exactly. And, I think, I talk about the fact that a lot of times when the other person is talking, we're thinking about what we're going to say next. So we have to just erase that out of our brain and ask even more questions about, okay, why do you say that? What was it about that you really thought was valuable or you liked? Yes, it is. That's the crocodile's great because the mouth is always open. Yes, it's digging deeper and, like I said, looking for clues, just how they talk about maybe their family or their relationships or you're going beyond just what relates to your opportunity.
So I like how the two dovetail, because if we know the moose, who our ideal customer is, we typically also know what they value and what's important to them. Maybe even age or certain demographic information, but there's probably a whole lot of information we already know about them by simply understanding their moose. And then going into the Sherlock mode allows us to get even more intimate, deeper by asking questions, being observant. I just left Seattle last night, went to a memorial service for my sister-in-law, and I rented a car while I was there. And it was the most frustrating experience I've ever had with the young man behind the counter who mumbled the whole time and asked a series of upsell questions, all of which I said no, 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 no to, right? Except for one where he told me there's tolls all over Seattle and I wanted to prepay for tolls because I didn't want to get hit with all these fees. And of course, I didn't see a single toll in Seattle, but I'm sure there are.
I'm in Seattle.
I know you're in Seattle.
Yeah. There's one
there.
Well, there's two tolls, and in the whole city, the whole metropolis.
So I spent an extra $50 on tolls I never used, but not once did he ask, "Why are you here? Are you here on business or pleasure? I see you're with your family. I hope you have a great time." Not once was there anything about what my needs might be. It was like, buy this, buy this, buy this, buy this, buy this kind of thing. And I left there so mad. Had I not made pre-reservations, I probably would have went somewhere else. But talk to me how these two things overlap. The moose and the Sherlock piece. How can we do that efficiently? Let's say in a sales situation, the first time we're meeting someone.
Well, a lot of the investigation you do about moose is before you meet with the person. But of course, then you do need to ask the qualifying questions. You need to determine, can they afford this investment, and find out if you guys are a fit. And you can say, I'd like to know that we are a fit. And some of our most successful franchisees or, franchise owners, have these concerns or have this going on. And we'd like to see, if you are also, you have that too. So there are the questions, you have to qualify people. The more you can do beforehand, the better. But then once you do have a moose, you are going into that Sherlock mode to get more to the emotion. People buy an emotion, justify with logic. That is so true. And so the Sherlock mode is getting more to their motivation and to, what's driving their thinking. And of course, the other thing about being Sherlock, besides getting the information that you can use to guide them forward, is just that people feel like you value them when you're listening. And, one of our clients, I was asking him, how do you like to buy? Because that's the other thing is I say, no one likes to be sold. We like to buy. So I said, what does a person do to make you want to buy? And he said, listen. That's all they do is, I mean, not all they do. That is the biggest thing, just feeling heard, feeling understood. We all want to feel understood before we want to understand. So it really is a mindset. And we did talk a little bit about Elton John. When we were at this concert last night, here's this 75-year-old guy, you know, busting his butt to give the best show to the audience. When he sang your song, he pointed to us. He said, "This is your song." All, through the show, he would stand up and, bow toward different parts of the audience. I just feel like it's such a mindset when you have that kind of feeling and care for your customer, and you just say, "I want to understand you before we go any further. I want to understand you."
Yeah, that's so true. And Elton John has always had that level of energy. I saw him like 20 years ago, and he had that level of energy. And it's amazing to see that it's still to this day. And, we should all have that level of energy, right? Well into our 70s. One thing I was just thinking about it, which of course just went right out my mind. Is that, oh yeah, we were talking about listening, right? And have you ever had this experience? Because it happens to me like throughout my life, where I'm speaking with someone, but I'm actually doing more of the listening, and then they walk away, saying, "Oh, you're so awesome," and I feel like, but I barely said anything, right? And the truth of the matter is, it was because I was listening, and I feel like that kind of lends itself to what you were saying, Kay, right?
Oh,
would you say?
Absolutely. In fact, I couldn't resist including a Dale Carnegie story in the book. And he talks about a story, and this is from How to Win Friends and Influence People. Mm-hmm. And he talks about how he spent a whole evening with a botanist at some dinner party, and he didn't say a word. He just asked and learned. And then afterwards, this botanist said, "Oh, he's such a great conversationalist.
Right.
We love to talk, and we love to be heard, listened, and understood." And like I said, of course, salespeople do too, but we just, in this case, really need to focus on the customer, what matters to them.
Yeah.
But that's a great point.
It really is. It gets personal at that level. If you really are insatiably curious about this potential client or a customer, and you're spending time getting to know them and observe them and ask them questions, it's a more intimate relationship at that point, where someone truly feels heard, understood, significant, right? Rather than just a number or paycheck or whatever they might be used to in these kinds of situations. Which to me brings up, when you get more personal like that, when you truly are a good listener, I think it also develops trust, right? Where you feel, and you're going to speak to this, but for me, it makes me feel I can trust this person a whole lot better. What's your thoughts on that?
Right. I really agree. And I talked about, that we just made a purchase from a franchise from Budget Blinds. And we were so impressed. And, we didn't have a long, this can happen over a short period of time or a long period of time. I knew of this person because he is involved in the community. But when he came to our house to show us the options, he really, he told us, first of all, "I want to find the right, whatever, the right products for what you are looking for, based on your budget, based on what you want. And I am not going to try to sell you anything more or anything less." He told us that. And, everything that he did backed that up. He was on time. He called. I started wanting to know what kind of paint colors we should go with these blinds. And he said, oh, let me send you a picture of our house. We just remodeled it. And then, he didn't tell us a lot about his family, but he saw that we have, that our daughter was a golfer. And so he said, oh, my kids are just starting out golfing, same, at the same country club where our daughter grew up golfing. And we talked a little bit about that, a little bit of our common interests. It wasn't a big, long conversation, but it was just enough to really set this tone. And as I told you, he ended up having a housewarming party and invited us over. So it's just the type of person he is, really good work ethic, did what he said he was going to do, and found some common ground with us. But I really liked his branding promise was, and of course, since I had just written the sales book and I gave him a copy, he said, I don't really think of it as sales. I think of it as helping people get what they want. Mm-hmm. And he said, I'm not really a salesperson. I said, well, you're a really good salesperson, actually, because he made us want to buy.
Yeah. It's a recipe for success. Once we have that trust, once we've done a good job listening and understand what they value, what's important to them, it really is a recipe for success. And I think it's interesting, he said, then it doesn't feel like sales. It feels like I'm serving someone. I'm helping facilitate a way for them to get what they wanted. Maybe they didn't even know they wanted, but
and that's true. And, when we say I'm not going to, this isn't salesy or whatever, of course we do want to make a sale, but it always feels so much better when the customer says, I want that. I can imagine when you're looking at a potential franchisee and they say, I can't wait to do this. I want this. Versus, and nobody likes to be sold something that they don't really want. And of course, for your world, that doesn't make sense anyway. You do not want to find the wrong customers. That's not going to help at all. And really, any type of relationship sales or long-term sales, unless you're a door-to-door salesperson, which pretty much don't exist anymore, all sales is relationship sales.
Yeah. You brought up something, and I'd like to hear more about this and get your thoughts on it. Every franchise concept has its own brand. And then there are the individual franchisees within their own communities, and their own communities require certain things. So they have to be, present themselves as a certain brand to the community while reflecting the brand of the franchise company. What do you think is the best technique for integrating those two?
Well, of course, you do need to support the franchise brand, mission, vision, whatever. Mm-hmm. But really, I look at your own personal brand. And, I recommend people write it down. What do you stand for? Mm-hmm. Who are you? Yeah. And really, I think anybody who's attracted to this world is going to want to serve. And if you can say, okay, I want to serve other people, I want to help other people, I want to be part of the community. And, I know you guys, I shouldn't say you guys, franchises have a lot of programs to help other people. As I looked into this world, it's just really inspiring. Mm-hmm. And I think that the people who are attracted to this world are givers. And so really just the fact that you're a trustworthy person, the fact that you really care about that person or the customer, the potential, the prospect, and that you also want to give. You're Elton John. You want to serve other people. Yeah. So I think really your branding promise, if you write down what you stand for, and as I mentioned, the Paul Moorhead, who we bought our budget blinds from, pretty much told me his branding promise that I'm not a salesperson. I just want to help you get what you want and be really happy.
That's awesome. Shout out to Paul. You rock.
Go,
Yes.
Paul. Yeah,
Go, Paul. And
go
Cassie.
budget blind.
And
His
budget
wife,
blind.
his wife Cassie, and I'm just mentioning that because it just happened. But yeah, I think, I mean, the people that are attracted to this world, I'm very impressed with. But yes.
Yeah. So your book is
Mhm.
Uncopyable Sales. First off, that's a tongue twister. So
I know, and that's not even including the subtitle.
What is the subtitle, by the way?
Oh, geez. I'm going to have to read it. I told you I was out late last night.
Yeah,
How to
I have
create
it.
an unfair advantage and outsell your competition.
So talk to me about that uncopyable part. Um, First off, how'd you come up with that name, and how do we become uncopyable? I know you've hit some points already. I just don't want to miss anything.
Well, the Uncopyable brand started with one of our previous books, and it really addresses the fact that we get so many of our ideas by looking at the competition. Oh, look what they're doing. We're going to do that, only we're going to do it better. And then someone else can do it better. And so, really having an uncopyable position. So, you're saying, number one, that you're unique. And if you can truly be uncopyable, one of the best ways to be uncopyable, and something that I did way back in one of my very glamorous jobs selling mufflers and catalytic converters. I know. When I started, I didn't know anything about cars. I knew how to put oil in my car because it was constantly leaking in college. I had to carry oil cans around with me. But so now I got hired to work to sell mufflers and catalytic converters. I didn't understand that world. So I went to one of my customers. So I sold through distribution and they sold to muffler shops. And I said, will you teach me how to sell, how to install a muffler? And the guy's like, seriously? And I said, yeah, I want to learn. He said, well, have you ever used a welding torch? I'm like, no, I guess I need to learn that too. So he said, okay, the first thing you need to do is go to Red Wing Shoes and get some steel toe boots. So I looked at his boots and I'm like, oh my gosh. So I fast forward, I got steel toe boots. We set an appointment. I came into the shop. They had this car on a hydraulic lift with an old rusted out muffler system in it. And I, with his help, of course, took out the old muffler system and installed a new muffler. Now, I have to tell you, this was during the time when the movie Flashdance came out. Do you remember that movie?
Yes, of course.
That was such an awesome movie for our young listeners. And in the opening scene of Flashdance, I don't know if you remember, but when they pan in and there's a welder on an assembly line. And then the welding torch goes dark and this hand reaches out to remove the helmet. And of course, you assume it's a man, but it's not a man. It's Jennifer Beals, and she looks gorgeous as she takes her helmet off, right? And so when I was under this car welding a muffler system, and it was really heavy equipment, I thought, I'm just like Jennifer Beals. I'm welding like the beginning of Jennifer Beals. So we did the whole muffler system. And when we were done, the guys are kind of standing around the shop, kind of giggling. And I took my helmet off and I looked across the garage. There was a sink with a little mirror over it. And guess what? I did not look like Jennifer Beals. My hair was stuck to my head. My mascara was running down my face. My face was red hot. So anyway, it was a funny story, but that story made me uncopyable. And if you can come up with a story that connects you to your brand, something you did for a customer or something that happened, all different ways that you get involved and you show that you really want to understand that world. That is, to me, one of the best ways to be uncopyable. Back in those days when I was one of the only women in this in my industry, none of the men had done that. None of the men went in and installed a muffler. So it became a real, a story that got around. I got the nickname Muffler Mama, which was affectionate, I'd like to think. And it just really separated me from my competition. So if you have a story, I mean, in the book, there are so many stories of people who really have gone the extra mile and done things to set themselves apart. And once you do that, you have a story.
Wow.
And you can, and nobody can copy it. Moose, nobody can copy the fact that we call our target market moose. We've established that. And if someone else tried to do that, it would obviously be copying us. So within your framework, how can you find something really unique that, with orange, we wear orange. Oh, they're the ones that wear that everything is orange, so who can you be the one that fill in the blank?
Wow.
Jenga, you talked, I love that Jenga. When I met Tracy, I said, oh, Jenga, I love Jenga. And then you described how it fits your consulting. Why don't you just tell us what you said to me?
Well, Jenga was actually something that I originally got from Rebecca, and it actually fits the Zoracle profile because with all of her years of behavioral research and behavioral studies, she came to find out that we have about 45, 50 values that stack up like the kids' game Jenga. And at any given point in time, some of those values, even the ones that are, a little lower down on the stack, might become displaced. And identifying those helps us to see what our pain points are, get past those, and build ourselves up as business people, right? And obviously, as we know, the tool which she created was to help franchisors select and recruit and retain top franchisees. So it's got a lot of uses, but that analogy is something that I use all the time. And it's a beautiful analogy to help people understand their values.
And guess what? It's uncopyable.
It's uncopyable.
It is uncopyable because if someone else did that, they're copying you and it would be obvious.
Yeah.
So that is the perfect example of something that you did to help explain and represent your brand. That is, there you go. Thank you. Thank you, Tracy.
Well, thank you for asking.
And again, as someone who's, when you looking for clues, Sherlock, I'm looking at your backgrounds. I want to, Rebecca asked me about the books. I asked you about the Jenga. And so these are clues that we are also gleaning from each other.
Yeah. Can I share one more thing with you?
You sure can.
Here on my right is a beautiful award that we won from FBA. Most people don't know this, but Zoracle Profiles has been voted by the FBA membership base, voted as the #1 vendor of the year every year since 2013. And most people don't even know that. So it's so exciting, right?
That is exciting. I think you should get, let's see, Christmas Story when he talked about, I won a major award. Remember that whole, the Christmas Story? Oh my gosh. Yeah. It's a classic Christmas movie about the lamp, the leg lamp.
Ooh.
Oh, yes.
The leg lamp. That's the one. And the rifle. Anyway, he won that leg lamp and he said it's a major award. And so you should put a little note saying major award.
Major award.
Major award right there. Major award.
I don't know if everybody will get it, but some people will really crack up. But yeah, that's cool. Good for you. Yes. I mean, that thing is, like you said, I guess I would have liked to know what that is. To think
because it's
that.
Beautiful. We need to line up all 13 of them, huh?
Right.
Yeah. Good for you. Good for you, ladies.
So yeah, it's interesting. So how does someone get to that story, the thing that's uncopyable? What questions should they ask themselves, or is it something that just evolves? How do you know what makes you unique? I think sometimes we're just so used to ourselves and who we are in the moment that we don't see that we're in any way unique. So how do we get there?
Well, I mean, one thing that we like to say, the uncopyable framework, is look at what everyone else is doing and don't do it. Now, because there are so many, like it's so tempting to copy someone else. So I think it's just, okay, what are the possibilities that you could look at to be different? You know, we have one client who is a ketchup fiend. And we were talking about Elton John and how it was so funny, this quirky thing that happened. But he just, everybody jokes about how he loves ketchup. He takes it everywhere. He has packets of ketchup. He has a, you know, a necklace that has a little catch or keychain. I don't know, something. So, you know, if you just look and say, okay, what is it about me? Or what is it about you that how you can tell the story? I do in the book, I do have a lot of different ways that you can brand yourself with a promise, but also is there something quirky about you? Or is there a story? Or is there a way that you can explain your brand with language or a title or something that sets you apart?
Yeah, and I think in this case, there's two components of it from the sounds of it. There's what sets my brand apart, what sets me apart within that brand, right? Which is what Tracy's done with her Jenga, and even talking about the awards. I don't ever talk about the awards, but Tracy is very clear about it. And every time she does, I'm going, wow, why don't I think of that? Because it really does set a position, right? So what is the brand and who am I within it? We have within our space a gentleman named Red Boswell. He's the president of the International Franchise Professional Group, IFPG. And even before he became president, he was branding himself. He would always wear red tennis shoes, suit, tie, red tennis shoes, every place that he went, and he became the selfie king. Every place he went was about taking pictures with his friends and colleagues and potential clients, and he's got millions of incredible photos over that. There isn't a person in the world of franchising that does not know Red Boswell, from his red shoes, from all of the selfies, and then kind of his funny little jokes that he gives. So he's branded himself, but he also is branding the company that he works with, which is IFPG in this case. So I think we have to remember that it really is, especially in franchising, it's both, right? As a salesperson, who am I? And as a franchise concept, who are we?
Right. Yeah. I just saw Red last week at the IFPG.
Was he wearing his red shoes?
Of course. He was wearing his red shoes. His personality is amazing. Yes.
Yeah. And I just met with someone who has a great personality, and he calls everyone friend. And, you know, I don't think I could get away with that. But, you know, when he says, hello, my friend, hello, my friend. Oh, and this is, when he was introducing me, it was actually at a senior living community where I'll be speaking. And I wanted to get to know everybody. And of course, he has a corporate brand too. But within his brand, he has this personality. And just one of them really is meet my friend Kay. He just pulls it off. Like you said, this gentleman you're talking about, just a unique guy that has, you know, added some different language and different little quirky things that he's got that are very memorable. And that particular market is interesting because when seniors visit a bunch of different communities, they can't even remember which one's which. So they have to be memorable. And so, you know, that is also, you know, part of your branding is to be memorable.
The uncopyable equals memorable. So we do need to think about all of those things. Yeah. It's interesting. We have a woman in our space, Emily George. She works with Franchise Business Review, a highly acclaimed survey research company. And she used to be a bartender. And she is the most knowledgeable mixologist I've ever met. And so she does these really fun videos. I'm a non-drinker and I still watch them. But she does these fun videos, Whiskey Wednesday videos, where she talks about the particular alcohol and how it can be mixed and what you can do with it. And so she has her own unique brand within this powerful brand franchise of you. And we all know her. And she's new to the industry, but we all know her.
You already know her. See, so those are some great ways to, to brand yourself. Like I said, there are other examples in the book. I hope you'll take a look at that too. But yeah, use your imagination, and I think if you take what we've talked about today, you could really find some interesting things. Like Rebecca, I could see you with a big colored streak through your what's your branding color?
Thinking about it, putting my Zoracle green in there somehow.
There you go. Just a green extension right through there. Yeah, she's funky. The one with the green extension.
She's the one with that crazy green extension. The old lady, gray-haired lady with the green extension.
Not old. You're a young whippersnapper compared to Elton John, and he was.
Oh my goodness! And I want to have his energy. So we're at the top of the hour, ladies. I want to make sure that folks know how to get hold of you, Kay, and learn more about your book and what you're up to.
Yes. So my email is k@uncopiablesales.com. And on LinkedIn, I'm Miller K. So my first name and last name just reversed. And you can also go to my website, uncopiablesales.com. And last but not least, I am going to create a giveaway that will be created by the time this is released. And if you go to uncopiablesales.com/franchise-woman, I will have a download for you of one of the chapters of the book.
Nice.
I'm excited. Yeah. Beautiful. Tracy, any last minute thoughts about our conversation with Miss K Miller, or Miller K, because that's uncomfortable.
Yeah, Miller K.
Well, you know me, I can't wait to get off of this podcast to go use my Sherlock Holmes to identify my moose and release my inner Jennifer Beals.
There you go.
That's my takeaway.
Yay, I love it. Thank you.
That's my takeaway.
Well said. Oh my gosh, mic drop on that one, girl. Kay, thank you so much for joining us. And the rest of you listening in to the Franchise Woman podcast, where passion and purpose collide, profits are made, and relationships are forged. We'll see you next week on another episode.
Thank you so much.